Hey guys, welcome to the Jake for the State podcast. And today my guest is Senator Nathan Dahm. We're going to dive into this issue out in Broken Arrow concerning the mosque. It has riled up a lot of people. It has a lot of people concerned. Of course, as we're seeing the rise, it appears, the rise of Islam across the globe. Now the question is Oklahoma next? We're going to dive into all of that here in just a second with Senator Nathan Dahm. Stay tuned.
This is the Jake for the State podcast, and this is the call for every red-blooded, God-fearing, liberty-loving patriot to prepare yourself, take your position, stand your ground, and advance the cause of freedom. Let's go.
All right, and we will go straight to our next guest. We're going to dive into this issue of the mosque out in Broken Arrow. Like I said, a lot of people across the state have been asking me about it, so I felt it appropriate to cover. And I have someone with me that not only has been raised in that area, but of course has been in Oklahoma government for some time. So let's get right to him. Senator Nathan Dahm. Senator, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me on. Always enjoy being with you. Appreciate what you're doing to advocate for the people, our liberties, our freedoms, and for our way of life here in Oklahoma.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. That's what this is all about. And that's what it seems like may be threatened right now with this. It seems like a rise of Islam, but I say seems like because you never know what reality is versus how the media is framing it. And we all know that cameras can focus on one thing and you feel like it is taking over the world, but it might be an isolated event. But I wanted to give a little background on you first for the people who may not be familiar with Senator Nathan Dahm. He was born in 1983, spent his childhood in Broken Arrow in the great state of Oklahoma. In 1994, the Dahm family had a calling to move to the former communist nation of Romania in Eastern Europe to serve as Christian missionaries. It was through Christ and mission work that Nathan learned the true meaning of service to others and the true destruction of communism. And according to this bio, it goes on to say, you went on to run for a seat in the Oklahoma State Senate, and you're one of the few homeschool graduates to ever serve in the Senate. You've consistently been ranked among the most conservative senators in Oklahoma, often being the only senator to score 100%. And you've passed over 100 bills focused on protecting the rights of the people, as well as repealing over 200 laws in order to reduce the size and scope of government. Now, Nathan, there is more here, but the reason I read that particular bio is because it comes straight from careoklahoma.com. I thought that would be appropriate here since we're covering Islam. And this too has been circulating around social media. I was sent my bio that's also posted on CARE. And evidently they got a lot of candidates and representatives, elected officials' bios on their site. And it concerns some, but I guess that they are doing it just to inform their people about, who's running and who is currently in office. What do you think about your bio being on CARE? Are you troubled by that at all?
I mean, if my bio on CARE is talking about and proclaiming Christ, I'm all for it.
Right.
If people want to go to the CARE website and hear about Christ because they're reading my bio, happy to have them list me on there, even though I'm out of office and have been, for over a year now. But if that's part of it, fine. I mean, it's the internet. Anybody can take a bio and post it on a website and share that information. If they're trying to make it seem as if that means that everybody's bio that is listed there is a supporter of CARE, which is something that they might be doing and probably are doing, because that's one of the tenets of Islam is not just being facetious, but straight up lying to advance their causes. And so it seems like they might be doing that. Obviously, I don't appreciate that, don't support that. I'm sure the other people that are actual candidates don't appreciate or support it. But again, if Christ is being proclaimed through whatever their real motivations are, that's a victory in and of itself.
It's a great point. I noted that as well, that it was not redacted. I mean, they put it all out there. So, hey, that is a bonus. And for those who do not know, that stands for the Council on American Islamic Relations. And it is a nationwide organization. And I believe in Texas and in others, this was one of those that has been targeted with the attempt to designate it as a terrorist organization. Could you confirm that, Nathan?
Yes, there are states that have designated care as a part of the overarching Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic terrorist organization. They have been involved in that in those issues across not just across the country but around the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there is a call from many here in Oklahoma to do just that, to designate CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations, and a real pushback against Islam and Muslims altogether. Some more aggressively wanting to include everyone in the same batch, others that wanting to separate extremists from those that may casually practice Islam. We we saw the meeting recently over in Broken Arrow that focused on the mosque that they're attempting to bring into the heart of Broken Arrow. Now, you were raised in Broken Arrow, as your bio stated. So, in your time being raised in Broken Arrow, have you ever seen the rise of Islam? Have you seen hints of this? Have you seen the Islamic influence in your neighborhood or nearby neighborhoods? Tell me what you've seen just in the years you've grown up there. Are you planning for a secure retirement? Then you need to meet my friend Michael McGuire, CEO of McGuire Capital Advisors. With over 30 years of experience helping Oklahomans protect and grow their wealth. From asset allocation and risk management, Michael delivers personalized solutions tailored to you. Get your complimentary consultation today. Visit McGuireCap.com or call Michael directly at 405-760-5863. That's 405-760-5863. Your confident financial future starts here.
So in Broken Arrow, no, we haven't seen this. And this is actually an offshoot of the, I forget the name of it, the Tulsa Islamic Center or something like that. They have already a facility, a mosque in Tulsa, and they are wanting to expand. So they are trying to extend their tentacles out into other parts, other communities. This is not something that there's a large Muslim population in Broken Arrow that is demanding this. This is something that, because of the, not even large, but the small population of Muslims in Tulsa, they're trying to expand their reach out into other places. So they bought this property back over a decade ago in Broken Arrow. It's sat idle there. And what sparked all of this outcry is because they are now trying to rezone it, change it from agriculture so that they can build a mosque that will hold several thousand people. They say they're going to build a commercial center. There's a whole lot wrong with the proposal that they're presenting, and we can talk through some of the logistics on that. I went to the planning commission meeting. I objected to it for several reasons. But one of the main reasons is Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. Charlie Kirk was very vocal about this before he was assassinated. It's just not a compatible system with Western civilization. We've seen it in Europe, where it has continued to take over, and not just recently. I mean, when Muslims and Islam took over the Iberian Peninsula, it was thanks to some Catholic monks and the church centuries ago that decided to push back, and they were able to reclaim Spain and the Iberian Peninsula for Christ by pushing out and driving out the Muslims. If we want to look at the Crusades were fully justified. They were defensive. It was because Islam was going in, and they, with the sword, they were taking people, they were killing people, they were making slaves out of them. The Crusades were mostly a defensive measure and a defensive war. This is what Islam is. And so we can absolutely say that we do not want Islam in Broken Arrow, in Oklahoma, because it is not compatible with Western society. Now, we can talk through the First Amendment implications of that and some other things, but we can also, like I did at the Planning Commission meeting, point out that there's a lot of problems with their proposal that don't have to do just with the quote unquote religion, if you want to call it a religion, the cult of violence that they have. There's other reasons that this should not be coming into Broken Arrow besides just the fact that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, and it never will be.
So let's do that. Let's focus on both of those, starting with the nature of Islam, because that is, I think, the more pressing question. Some of the technicalities as far as how they filed their application, this might be something that would be red flagged no matter who filed, right? So we can go through some of that and what may be wrong with that application. But more fundamentally, the question is, should Islam be allowed to exist in America and in Oklahoma? And of course, the First Amendment implications there, the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech. I'll bounce past to you. Should Islam be allowed to exist in Oklahoma?
Well, if the church was doing their job, Islam would not exist in Oklahoma, because people would be hearing the truth of Christianity, of Christ's sacrifice, and be accepting that. However, I will also say, you mentioned my bio, that I grew up, my parents were missionaries. My wife also, her parents were missionaries, and she grew up in a Muslim country. And so she experienced this. And yes, they were able to convert people to Christianity through relationships and those things.
Are you able to say what country that is?
I'd rather not. But the thing that happens in Western countries is that Islam slowly takes over until they have the power and the control, and then everyone else must kneel to Islam or face execution, face whatever repercussions there is. So Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. So then people will say, well, yeah, but the First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion. When the Founding Fathers wrote the First Amendment, a couple of things. First of all, it says Congress shall make no law respecting religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The original Bill of Rights, many portions of it applied solely to Congress, specifically the First Amendment. That only applied to Congress. That did not apply to the states. Okay? So, because it specifically says Congress shall make no law. When you go into the Second Amendment, it talks about the rights of the people. That's a universal inherent right of people. Didn't matter what states you were in, didn't matter at the federal level. So they differentiated between the people and they differentiated between the federal government. And the First Amendment was specifically that Congress shall make no law. There's also a provision in the Constitution, of course, that says that there shall not be any religious test that should be taken. So no religious tests required to serve in the federal government. Now, if you go to the state level, though, there actually were state level laws on blasphemy, on religion. There were state-sponsored, quote-unquote, religious groups, meaning different denominations. What the founders wanted to protect against is they did not want a national religion. They did not want a Church of England, or in this case, a Church of America, that this is the only approved Christian denomination that everyone has to be a part of. When they referenced religion, that was a term that they used interchangeably with Christianity. So what they were just trying to protect was that the various denominations of Christianity would have the freedom to exercise as they saw fit within the different states, because different states had different levels, where there were some that one denomination was, more powerful or more had more attendance and more membership than in other states. Each of them had different levels of Christianity, but the founders understood that when they said freedom of religion, they meant freedom of Christianity. Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all these other things, even Judaism, were not a thought for the founders. They were focused on Christianity.
I'm here at Motus Health in Yukon, Oklahoma, here with Dr. Jeremy Moss. Dr. Moss, tell the people what all you guys do here at Motus Health.
So we are a full-service natural health care clinic, chiropractic, acupuncture, functional medicine, nutrition, massage, really anything from a natural, holistic, vitalistic perspective. That's what we do, and so we exist to serve for.
Yukon, Oklahoma, Dr. Jeremy Moss and his team, I know they can help you out. How do they get in touch with you?
Easiest way is just give us a call. So 405-494-0165. You'll call our front desk. We'll get you squared away as soon as we can. Typically, we can work patients in, sometimes even same day, but for sure within the same week, we'll get you in and get you feeling better soon.
So So when we try to use this First Amendment definition to say that, oh, well, this means that every religion should have equal access, equal opportunity, that's not what the founders envisioned at all. They just didn't want Congress mandating a national religion. That was their entire intent for the First Amendment. So we can go down that rabbit hole, and yeah, there's been a whole lot of Supreme Court cases, 14th Amendment, different decisions, different things that they say that now that all does apply to the states and to the individual people in the states, and we can have that long conversation. But if we want to go back to the founders' intent, no, they did not believe that Islamists would have the authority to have Sharia law in Oklahoma or in any other of the United States. That was not something that they would have approved of or considered or thought was what the First Amendment would be applied to.
Sound point there. And yeah, it would be a long, deep hole to dive into that fully, which we probably don't have time for now. But that is the question that was stirring in my mind as you were talking, is the 14th Amendment and how that has shifted since then. And even looking at the states, the individual states' constitutions, that initially many of them required allegiance to Christ and allegiance to a Protestant church. And before you could be a citizen of that state or serve in an official capacity there. And so there was various requirements put on by the states that were not enforced by the federal government. But then that did change with the 14th Amendment, post-Civil War. And that I guess is where we find ourselves now, is in that position. I'm a 10th Amendment guy. I want to prioritize the state sovereignty, and those rights not given to the federal government are reserved for the states and the people.
Absolutely.
And I want to emphasize that. But what do we do now, since we do have to face the implications of the 14th Amendment and our national identity rather than the priority of the citizenship of the state? How then do we approach this, especially with a Supreme Court that would be quick to shut any attempt to alienate a religion down?
Well, and so there is federal law that has been passed that would say that that you cannot treat different religions differently. Now here's the crux of that argument, though. There's been cases out of Colorado. There was one case in Oklahoma, but it never actually made it all the way through the courts. Whatever, it was settled outside of that. The case in Oklahoma, there was a church that wanted to have meetings in a commercial center, and the town denied them a permit and was trying to make them jump through extra hoops to be a church meeting in a commercial building, commercial frontage that they didn't require of any other business. And the court said, no, you can't do that. You can't add extra hoops, extra requirements. Okay. So you have to treat them all equally. Now, when it comes to this mosque, people will say, oh, well, see, there's already a church right next door. Well, guess what? That church right next door is on agricultural zoned land. This mosque is trying to get the property rezoned as commercial. So the mosque is asking for special privileges. They are asking to change what it would be, the zoning. Everything else around this is zoned agriculture. So they would be asking for special privileges. They would be the only property there in anywhere close to that vicinity, within a mile or more probably, that is zoned commercial. And so they're asking for a special privilege that the Planning Commission or the City Council can deny that and say, no, we're going to keep this all consistent in this area with our planning, with our zoning. It's all going to stay agricultural. Now, the reason the mosque is doing this is because they say they also want to put a commercial frontage area on this so that it'll provide tax revenue to the city. That's their selling points. That's why the Planning Commissioner members voted yes, is because they want more money. They want more taxes to be able to spend, right? That's their argument. Mm-hmm. But with that commercial center, there was no plans provided for it. They don't have a timeline on when they're going to do that. They couldn't clarify if the commercial center was going to be a part of the 501c3 nonprofit that owns the land, and if so, how they're going to collect taxes if it's supposedly a nonprofit site. It also goes to a Supreme Court case that said that if a church is having a daycare, this was an actual case, it said that they don't get special privileges just because they were a church. having a daycare as another school or entity that would be having a daycare. So it goes into that. So there's a lot of things with this. The reasons that it could be denied besides just the concerns about Islam.
Big shout out to Stevens Trucking, family owned since 1979, delivering top-notch freight solutions across Oklahoma and the lower 48 states. With over 350 trucks and 1,600 trailers, they offer reliable 24/7, 365 service, specializing in oil field and dry freight. They keep loads moving fast, backed by a fleet of flatbeds, dry vans, and more. Trust Stevens for on-time deliveries, cutting-edge equipment, and a team that treats you like family. Get a free quote today at stevenstrucking.com.
There's concerns about the size of the septic tank that they're going to be putting that backs up to a creek that flows into Hakey Creek, which is one of the largest creeks here in Tulsa County. Right. Very impactful. There's concerns with traffic flow. Somebody else brought up the fact that there's a Life Church like 3 miles away, which is right near my house. And as I pointed out at the meeting, the Life Church is half the size on the exact same amount of land. So there's no way that the mosque is going to be able to build twice as many parking spots as they are claiming, and a commercial center and everything else. But even with that, the Life Church is on a 5-lane road. This is on a 2-lane road, this mosque. So you're going to have, twice as many cars on 40% of the size of laneage, half the laneage availability, and that's just not going to work. So there's traffic issues, there's water issues, there's green space issues, there's commercial versus agricultural issues, there's the overall Broken Arrow comprehensive plan that has been publicized and been out there that this does not fit with that overall plan, so they'd be having to make an exemption for that. And so when they say that, all religions need to be treated freely and fairly and equally, what's happening with this is they are giving them special privileges by approving this. So they can deny it, and it would be saying, no, we're keeping everything consistent with our Broken Arrow comprehensive plan, with traffic concerns, with water concerns, with everything else that we would have concerns with any other entity that was trying to do this, and they can reject it for those reasons. And that's what I believe the City Council will do and should do when they have their next meeting. Right now, technically, tentatively scheduled for January 20th, but I've heard they might be having a special meeting either before or after that to accommodate the large amounts of people that are going to be coming out specifically to voice their concerns on this.
Right. Wow. So there was a massive amount of people that turned out for this planning commission meeting. And let me just show people a quick video of this.
It's our family that
you can't see the video. It's just a camera walking through lines of people on both sides of the camera that filled this building. And of course, inside the main meeting room, every seat is filled. And of course, you were there, Senator Dahm. So what was it like? What was the atmosphere like in person?
Yeah, I got there an hour and a half beforehand to make sure to get signed up so that I could speak. And I'm glad I did. Actually, I guess my speaking form got shuffled through the mix and ended up towards the end. But I'm thankful for that, because I was able to counter some of the other false claims that were made and some of the things that the Planning Commission did. So I was there for 4.5 hours, both before and during the meeting. And yeah, it filled up very quickly. Fire marshal came in and said, hey, once these chairs are full, we're not going to allow any standing room other than the media. He gave special privileges to the media to set up cameras and stand up in there. They went to the overflow room. That one filled up. And then he said, hey, we're going to fill the hallways, but we have to have, space to be able to walk through. So you can line the walls, but you can't stand in front of any doors, can't do anything like that. And I think it was probably a half hour, 45 minutes before the meeting even started that the building was at full capacity, and they had to start turning people away, because the rooms were full, the hallways were full, everything was full beyond capacity, so they had to start turning people away. And it was 95+%, probably more like 98 or 99% in opposition, just a handful of people supportive of it. And when you heard the questions or the things that were being said, it was interesting that the people that were in favor of it several of them obviously had never spoken in public before. They were very nervous, but the planning commission members like coached them, like, it's okay, you're doing great, keep saying what you're saying. And, you know, they were able to talk about how great Islam is and how great the Muslims are that they know and all this and everything. And the chair of the planning commission never once shut them down, never once said, hey, that's not relevant to what we're discussing here. But whenever people came up and said the problems with Islam, the ties to terrorism and the Muslim Brotherhood and and CARE and all these other things, he would shut them down and say, hey, that has no bearing on this. We can't vote no because of that. We're not going to make our decision based on that. You need to stick to the facts. And so it was very obvious that they had already made up their mind, that it was very slanted, that they were going to vote yes no matter what. And so that's why they allowed all the people to be supportive. They never shut them down because they didn't provide any facts. It was all just feelings. And that's when I first went up there for my time to speak, the 3 minutes I had. That's one of the first things I said. I said, there's no way that you can vote yes on this because you have not been given a reason to vote yes. Everybody that's spoken in favor of it has been given you their emotional feelings about it, whereas everybody that's spoken no, yeah, some people have expressed their concerns on Islam, but numerous people have told you about the concerns with traffic, with water, with all these. You've had several valid reasons to vote no and not a single valid reason to vote yes. And then the Planning Commission still passed it 4-1 on the rezoning and 3-2 on the use permit.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a show hearing when this many people showed up in opposition, and they still move forward with affirmation of this move. You know, lots of speculation around this. Have they been paid off? What's going on behind the scenes? Any ideas from your vantage point as far as what might be driving this? Is it just an oversensitivity to a minority group, the Islamic group? What is it?
Yeah, so all these people on the Planning Commission are appointed. They're not elected. They haven't had to stand before the people. And so they were just appointed to these positions. They kept saying, oh, well, we're just a recommending body, so we're going to make a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council has to actually vote on it, which is true, but that's a cop-out. They could have recommended to the city council not, move forward with it, but that's not what they did. And it just seemed like they've kind of fallen into this trap that so many people have of being scared and concerned about being called racist, being called, phobic, Islamophobic, yep, or whatever names are going to be called out there. But those things have lost their power because everybody and everything is supposedly racist. That just means that the leftists don't like it, right? And it's not Islamophobia. We're not fearful of it. We understand what it is. We understand that it is a threat. We understand that it is a cancer. And so it's not fear of it. It's actually a factually informed opinion on it. And I saw somebody that said that would be like somebody saying, hey, you have getting stabbed in the eye phobia. Well, yeah, who wants to get stabbed in the eye? Who's not going to be quote unquote afraid of that, as a possibility. And they'll say, oh, well, it's such a small fraction of, would you actually, get stabbed in the eye? Is, how many people are actually terrorists that are Muslim? Well, their prophet was, a quote-unquote prophet, was very explicit in what they are supposed to be doing. And so just because there's some of them that are not actually fully following the words of their prophet, and they're the ones that are out of alignment with the vast majority of Muslims around the world that believe in terrorism, believe in putting infidels to the sword, and all those other things, these are the ones that are out of alignment with it, and they could just be lying about it until they gain the power to be able to do that, to put people to the sword, because their teaching allows for that. So it's not a phobia, it's not a fear, it's a rational understanding of history, of Islam, of all of these things, and we're expressing it. And again, that's not the only reason that so many people are opposed to it, but it actually is a very valid reason to be opposed to this coming into Broken Arrow.
Yeah, here with Senator Nathan Dahm and current Oklahoma representative for the Freedom Caucus. What is your official title?
I'm the state director.
State director of the Freedom Caucus here in Oklahoma, of course, a nationwide organization. And we have the Freedom Caucus established now in our Oklahoma legislature. And your role now as the state director is what?
I work with the various members. We have our chairman, Senator Shane Jett. We have a vice chair in each chamber. On the House side, that's Representative Jim Olson. On the Senate side, that's Senator Dusty Devers. We have two other members of leadership. We have our treasurer, which is Senator Julie McIntosh, and our secretary, which is Representative Jim Shaw. We have several other members, but that's our leadership team. And I work with all of those members, helping them with legislation, drafting legislation, researching, doing everything I can to help get conservative legislation across the finish line, helping to talk strategy, working on, on the rules, the process to make sure we get those bills heard. And then also for those trans Republicans, as Chairman Jett calls them, that do not want to actually support conservative legislation, that want to stall it by not hearing it. If they're a committee chairman or whatever other reason, they vote against it. Part of my job is to let people know who these Republicans are, quote unquote Republicans, that are standing in the way of true conservative measures passing in Oklahoma. So doing a lot of what I did when I was in the legislature. Now I get to work in both chambers, work with some really phenomenal people, a great team that we have as our Oklahoma Freedom Caucus members.
You're doing a great job. I mean, such an aid to me as I came in. We served together for a brief time, of course, and you mentored me and showed me the ropes when I first came in, so I really appreciate that. But does the Freedom Caucus have a position on Islam in either at the federal level or the state level?
We actually are looking at some legislation, I know, across the states on what to do about Sharia law. That we actually had that bill that was passed years ago in Oklahoma banning Sharia law. And
right, 2010.
The courts in their infinite stupidity, lack of wisdom, believed that was unconstitutional. And so, we are looking at what we can do. I know House Freedom Caucus member Chip Roy, who's running for Attorney General in Texas, has been very vocal opposing Islam and Sharia and all these things. I know that we have reached out to Governor Stitt asking him if he is going to designate these different groups as terrorist organizations, just as Greg Abbott did down in Texas and other states have done as well. So yes, there is a national movement. We are looking at what we can do at the state level. We will be having some legislation introduced here from Freedom Caucus members and our conservative allies to do what we can to address this here in Oklahoma.
And I'll circle back to a point you made at the very beginning, that if we as believers, if the church, if those who believe and put their faith in Jesus and who are filled with God's Spirit, led by His Word, if we went out and shared God's love boldly like we were commanded to do, and that we have the opportunity to do, there would be nothing to fear. We know and we believe that we serve the one true God. They believe they serve the one true God, but, I often think of the showdown on Mount Carmel, with the prophet saying, hey, you believe that you serve the one true God? I do too. Let's prove it out. And we don't prove it out with a sword. We prove it out with signs and wonders and miracles, with demonstrations of love. And God proves Himself. And I think that we should put God to the test in this. We should demonstrate the thing that we believe in, the one that we carry. And this is not a threat when we do this. And we see the impact greatly minimized when we do. So any final word, Nathan Dahm?
Fully agree with you. I'm not trying to advertise or push anything, but I recently got to see the David movie with my family that's in theaters now, the cartoon, wonderful film. But same thing in that with David facing Goliath. It was it was David saying, I serve Almighty God. He is victorious. He will defeat you. And David walking in that. So if we as the church were to fully embrace that, walk in that, there's no reason that there couldn't be people going to the existing mosques instead of just the expanding ones or the potential expanding ones and sharing the gospel with these Muslims. There was a wonderful speaker, a man from Iran, who actually spoke at the Broken Arrow City Council. He accepted Jesus as his savior. He escaped Iran, and he looked to the other Muslims in the crowd and said, I was where you are. I've accepted the truth of Jesus Christ, salvation. I have a heart for you. I have a care for you. I want the same thing for you. I want you to understand Christ's love and accept Him as the true Savior that He is. That's what we should be focusing on. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, all these other things, we're going to keep trying to do what we can to go to the city council and these other ways to try to stop it through the other methods that we have and through government. But ultimately, it comes down to, again, the church needs to rise up. The church needs to have people have an actual change of heart, because that's what will change our country. We need a revival in this land.
Amen. Amen. And that gentleman was Cameron Karimi. I'll have him on tomorrow, actually. So we'll be talking about his experience back in Iran, his experience accepting Christ, and his ministry now to the Muslims. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation tomorrow. Senator Nathan Dahm, State Director of the Freedom Caucus. So appreciate your time today and all your brilliant your perception, your take on not only Islam, but our Constitution and the Word of God. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Jake. God bless you.
All right. God bless you. Is Nathan Dahm. Well, wow. Great insights. I so appreciate you guys tuning in, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the show. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. We got Cameron Karimi tomorrow talking about his experience in Iran and his experience accepting Jesus and now his ministry to the Muslims. So don't miss that tomorrow. I'll see you then.